We are currently in the period of the Sfiras HaOmer, the counting of the Omer from day 1 to day 49, but the Omer is more than simply a count. Rather, it's an offering. It's a Korban Omer, a barley offering that was brought when the Beis Hamikdash existed. And when this Omer, this Korban Omer was brought, it wasn't just any barley that was given to the Kohen to perform the mitzvah. Rather, the pasuk in this week's parsha tells us, "V'havesem es haomer reishis ketzirchem el hakohen." It has to be the first of the shearings, the first of what has been cut, of harvested. That is what goes to the Kohen. And the question is why? What's the significance of the first of what's being harvested goes to the Kohen? The Chazkuni explains, well, you can't eat any food without first giving a present to Hashem. God gets the first bite, and then everyone else gets the seconds, get to eat after God eats first. And perhaps, as the Maharal explains, there's a lot of symbolism in that and a lot of meaning in that idea. The Maharal writes that during this month, it's rainy season has just completed. The farmers are out and beginning to harvest. It may lead a person, the farmers, the owners, and others to believe that who is responsible for the success and the growth of all this produce and agriculture? It's me. Look what I did. I was very methodical in the way that I planted things and the way that the water came off of the plants from the produce from one to the next. And we were fortunate that we had some good rains. A person would start to believe, Kochi v'otzam yadi, it's me. I was the one who was responsible for a great yield this year. But the truth of the matter is, says the Maharal, Reishis ketzirchem el hakohen, you take the first of the harvest and you give it to the Kohen, as if to say, I know why I had a good year. I had a good yield. I know why I had any yield. It has less to do with what I did, and more to do with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. God ultimately is in charge, and God decides. And I am now offering the first of my harvest to God to show that Hakaras Hatov, that recognition that without God we are nothing. And this idea spoke to me very much just today when I heard a amazing story, although tragic at the same time. This idea that ultimately it's God who runs the world. There's a family friend who is currently in Gaza, and he was part of the group in the Golani brigade that went into Rafah recently, and they were able to secure a building. And that building, just the other day, was unfortunately hit by friendly fire. 5 of the soldiers were killed, 7 others are seriously wounded. And we continue to pray for the families of the deceased and for a refuah shlema for those that are wounded. And this boy that we're friendly with was in that building. Not in that building that day, but he was in the building the day before. He actually was sent to the hospital the day before for some smoke inhalation. And that is actually what saved his life. You can't really explain why something like that happened. It's a tragic story, but there's also the miraculous story that this boy was able to make it out and make it out alive. Ultimately, we try what we can. We serve. Our soldiers serve in the army. They're brave and courageous and do as much as they can. Ultimately, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in charge. We know that. Even us in America on a smaller scale, we went with a group to Washington, D.C. to lobby our senators and our congressmen to make a difference. Ultimately, we know that it's in HaKadosh Baruch Hu's hands. So we give Reishis Ketzirchem, we give the first of our harvest to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, because we know it's a God is in charge. And everything we do, the Bikurim, we give the first fruits. Reishis is always given to God, and we hope and pray that just as we always recognize that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in charge, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will look at us as his children and say, I recognize how much you believe in me. I will pledge to do the same for you. Have a wonderful Shabbos.